This year I made 5 reading goals for 2025, and I don't usually do this. I never really make like a big standing of like all the goals I have, especially for reading, but this time I thought maybe this would make me a bit more intentional about what I want to read and why I'm reading, and just to make myself really think about reading again. It's a bit late in the year for this, really. I've already started implementing some of these into my life, but I just thought I'd make this video to set these goals in stone into my brain, basically. Number 1, I always run numbered goals. So aside from the fact that I just said I don't do any goals, this is the only one that I really ever give myself because of the Goodreads challenge. And this year, it's not going to be any different. I didn't achieve 50 last year, so I'm going to shoot for that once more. I've done 50 books before, but I hope to just do it again in a busier year to show myself that reading 50 books when you do have things on isn't hard, and to make myself like really reprioritize reading. That's what this goals thing is all about. Last year I started my first full-time job, and so I was a bit lax on myself to achieve this. This year I think I have a lot more free time, especially now that I live alone. I can make time to read whenever I want and listen to audiobooks when doing chores. I think that's something that's been really helpful because, living out means that there's so many chores. And all of the time there's chores, it's never fucking ending, and audiobooks are a nice way to get through that. So usually I'd add 5 books every single year. So from like 2019 I did 35, maybe I did 30, and I did 35, and then did I 40, and then did 45, and then the next year I did give myself the goal of 50, but I actually read 100 books that year. But that was a year where I was unemployed and also working at a library. So I was working at a library for the first half, and then I was unemployed. So, very easy to read, much more access to books. The year after, so that was last year, 2024, I, started my job, so didn't have that much time. So I just thought, let's just do 50 again. I know I've hit 50 within my like +5 thing. I'm just gonna do 50 again. Or maybe I didn't, maybe it was 45 the year that I read 100, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm adding 5, I think it's 50. I think that might be the case, actually. So regardless, this is my first 50 year, and I'm not gonna read 100 books. I'm hopefully gonna read 50. I'm not on track on my Goodreads, but like, let's just see how that goes. I'm like 2 books behind, and when I tell you my other goals, I feel like I'll be able to fix that up. Number 2, read 1 political theory book every month. I'm a leftist, and every leftist ever will tell you to do the reading. And I've been a pretty bad leftist, I guess, and I haven't really been doing the reading, and I want to change that. I would like to rectify not doing the reading and be a proper leftist. So I've actually been pretty good about this one so far. I have generally been picking pretty short books, but the fact that I'm doing it all is a surprise to me because I try to get myself to read nonfiction every year and I just can't do it. I think I will have to keep splitting up the books into chapters, tell myself to read a chapter or 2 a day, as well as print stuff out. I've been reading them mainly as PDFs online, but I think I might print them out to have it around me physically, as to kind of like force myself into thinking about it. Plus, since a lot of what I'm reading is old and free online, I don't need a physical or an ebook copy that I buy. Like, there's loads of PDFs that can just be printed out for free whilst being able to have a physical copy. But additionally, I think I might borrow some from the library because these books are quite famous, they're old, and therefore they have a pretty high chance of just like already being at the library. So overall, I do think this is a goal that I will indeed complete because honestly, I've never seen myself actually give this much thought to it. Plus, these books that I'm picking quite short, and I think that was my main thing. I was like, I don't have the attention span for nonfiction. Whereas now, again, living alone, I sit here, just go through my PDFs, highlight stuff, sit in the sofa. It's easy. It's easier than when you're having to read nonfiction in my bedroom. I don't know why. There's just something about the formal setting of a sitting room that makes me feel happier to read nonfiction. Number 3, read magazines and articles. I want to specifically read Sight and Sound and the London Review of Books, but if I decide that I don't really like those ones, I'm not going to hold myself against that. I still want to read 5 articles a week regardless of that. These can be from different magazines, from different places. One or the other will do. So either reading just those 2 magazines and the articles within them, or picking some up here and there, basically. Number 4, this one's a little bit contradictory, but it involves making a choice, and it is to either have more physical media or do the total opposite and get a Kobo. I might choose to do both in a bit of moderation, maybe get some secondhand books and therefore they'll be a bit cheaper, or, you know, get an iPad. I've been considering getting an iPad, but I haven't. An iPad would be more versatile, I could use it for more things, but I think a decision has to be made on this, especially since there's been a massive rise of pro-physical media rhetoric and the whole Kindle download fiasco. But for a very, very long time, I was somebody who read on my phone. Like, even now I still kind of read on my phone. Like, I've read on my phone on Google Books for quite literally since I got a phone. So maybe, like, when did I start getting a phone? 2012? It's 2025. I've been reading on a phone for that long. I've only really started making enough money to like go out and buy a book all the time, like in the last year and a half. So I don't know. I don't know whether I'll be like, okay, I definitely want to read physical books, because I find like having to take out physical books with me when I'm like out and about really annoying. So, but an iPad isn't easier to take out, do you know what I mean? So I will figure it out, but I do want to kind of give up the phone, because I think I'm getting a little bit too distracted by always being on my phone when I'm reading, because then I'll just like pick up something else. I'll go on Instagram, I'll go on TikTok, and I don't want that anymore. I want to focus in on that to the extent where I'm like, if I start getting a physical book or an iPad, I might just like get an alarm clock and then just turn my phone off before I go to bed, and then the alarm clock will wake me up and then I can go to work, instead of having everything on my phone. My life is on my phone. I want to decenter the phone, okay? I've decentered men a long time ago. It's time to decenter my phone, because that is the biggest issue in my life right now. And my fifth goal for 2025 is to read nearly all of Mary Oliver's work. Now, some of her poetry collections are straight up impossible to find. I tried to find her first one and move forwards. I literally couldn't. But of the ones that I can source, I'd really like to get into and read her work. I'm not super into poetry, even though I've really tried to be over my life. I just don't always get it. I'm not easily led into poetry. But Mary Oliver is a pretty accessible poet. I've read some of her other stuff before. So starting with her poems means, I think, a slower descent into the world of poetry, because trying to read Ocean Vuong like 2 years ago was a complete disaster. I have a whole video about that. But like, I found it super difficult and I just couldn't do it. And I'd also like to end reading her work by reading her poetry handbook, because everyone says it's quite insightful, and as mentioned before, I don't really get poetry, and this is my journey towards getting into it. So I think reading that would also be quite helpful for me. So those are all of my goals. I haven't really made myself a strict TBR, aside from like reading political stuff and reading Mary Oliver. Like, I don't pick any of those. So I've just got a bottled up belief that sticking to this would make for a very successful reading year for me. And that's the end of that. So thank you for watching. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you're really about it. Hope you have a great day. See you next time.